I swear, man. Shoot me in the friggin' head. This was an act of love. And my wife might
Uh,
be on here tonight. So, well,
that's great.
yeah,
I tell
really.
you what, I get a dumpster every couple years. Like I literally just had one hauled off. I got a 20-yard dumpster and we just threw stuff away. Some of it was really good stuff.
We had the
What do you do
hurricane
with
come
it?
through here, Hurricane Sandy years ago, 8 years ago now, right?
Yeah.
And we lost everything. I got a split level house. We lost everything on the ground floor and everything underneath the house in the crawl space. Two 40-yard dumpsters, and I still got stuff. Unreal.
Wow.
Anyways, yeah, let's let everybody on, man.
Yeah, this is Seller Finance with Steve D.
Creative financing. Creative
Creative
financing.
Creative Finance. I like that better too.
Yeah, man.
What if I'm not a creative person? How do I stretch that muscle?
Get
Because you know
somebody that
what?
is.
Huh?
You know, a lot of one of the big things in this industry, people get something, they're afraid to share it, they're afraid to talk to somebody else about it. And what happens? The deal falls off when it could have been really a good deal. So there's really no place for them in general to go to a forum and sit there and talk that's up and rolling every day. People can come to this and bring deals and say, listen, I got a question. I want to ask about this and this and this. What do you think? You're on the cusp of something that could be really outrageous. So I'm asking everybody again tonight. Bring some people on. The bigger this thing grows, and the faster it grows, and the more diversified people are. Here you go. More diversified people are, right? As far as they're allowing and sharing information, this thing could really, really be great. Bob G. I wonder who's Bob G.
Yeah. So Steve wants the wanted the meeting to be open to the public tonight, and that's Steve. This is to me. This is Steve's session. Steve is the he's the man.
We're
Okay.
just gonna have fun.
So enjoy it tonight while it lasts, because it may not last forever. That whole I got in tonight for free without subscribing. Okay. Um, yeah. Love you guys. Let's start out with welcoming everybody. First of all, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for participating. We've got a good number of folks in the Zoom room here. We have folks watching us on Facebook and YouTube tonight. So if you want to be in here, it's Zoom Justin. Okay, tonight is an open session. All right, but we have here tonight Steve D. This is his session on Monday nights, but he is an expert at creative finance. What are you shaking your head at me
I
for,
hate
man?
it when someone says I'm an expert at any damn thing. Man, I'm just the guy that likes to listen and just learn. I'm like there was a time I was like a sponge. As you get older, the more gray hair you got, the less of a sponge you really are. But I don't know. It's all good. And this isn't what we're going to talk about tonight. Isn't something that just happened overnight because I'm the smartest guy in the world. I'm not going to take any credit for it. I'll take credit for the deals that I put together, but the theory and all that goes behind it was because people were actually honest enough to stand up and share what experience they had. And I'll name a bunch of people, that helped me get to, that point where I am right now. Some of them are big course or big game gurus that they say. Some of
Yeah,
them, they'll sit there and talk to you for hours because they just love to help people and they love the real estate business. There's a lot of people, uh, you know, since we're just talking, let's not kick this thing off yet. I was at a meeting with a fellow down in Tampa about 7 or 8 years ago, and during lunch hour, there's an old timer there, and he's looking for somebody to go to lunch with, and he was one of the quote helpers that were there, so to speak. I didn't know anything about this guy, right? So I said, "Come on, let's go for lunch." Oh yeah, let's go, right? This guy hadn't been inside of a bank since 1957, not even to cash a check. And his big claim to fame was him and his daughter. I don't think he was. I think he lost his wife years before. Him and his daughter has set foot on every country in the world except for two. and it was his goal to go and visit those two other countries, every single country in the world. So a couple of years later, I'm sitting in another meeting and I'm talking. I said, "Well, I met this guy." She goes, "My daughter used to work for him." I said, "Really?" She says, "I go, well, he says he was doing well selling houses." He goes, "Doing well." He had over 2,700 homes that people were pay. He was collecting payments on every month.
Wow.
2,700. Can you imagine? Right?
Yeah.
And these were all seller financed or leased option homes. Unbelievable.
Wow.
2,700.
So there you go. You heard it here. He's going to show us tonight how to get 2,700
Yeah,
homes
right.
into our portfolio over the next, 12 months? You think that's reasonable, Steve?
He was doing. This guy was probably just playing around, and he was probably doing a house or two a week, just
Yeah.
playing around. It was just
Yeah.
being in the right place at the right time, networking, being a nice guy, sharing, and deals just fell in his lap because people didn't know what to do with them. And if it was in this area, he was the guy to go to. And there was no deals that fell in between the cracks. He took everything. So all right. So I don't know. They said we're going to talk about seller financing. Why don't we just start off real easy? I got my cheat sheets here that I've had for years, right? And let's just start off with, if you're going to think outside the box, when you purchase any type of real estate, or really any type of an asset, it doesn't have to be real estate. It can be a business, it could be anything, right? If you look down to the very, very hardcore, the very, very existence, the beginning, how many different ways is it that you can really shave this thing down if you want to bring it way, way, way down and compact it to buy something? And it comes down to about 7 different ways. Each one of these ways can be expanded in dozens of different directions. All right. And I'm not going to set these up in a real fine particular order. All right. So let's just talk about real estate for a minute. How many different ways is it that we can buy an existing property? Someone's got a home. Let's just keep it simple. Someone's got a single family home and they want to sell it. And there is some degree of motivation that they want to sell this property. So what are some of the degrees? Now we're going to find out if they've got current debt on the property, meaning they have a mortgage, a loan on the property. We're going to find that ascertained for some of that. Because when I do deals, I look for terms. I'm not the guy that's going to be the rehabber. I'm not the guy that's going to swing the hammer and do all that. Man, I don't do that. I'd rather be the guy. I am a cash flow investor. I like to receive money long term, and I like it when I go to the mailbox and the money's in the mailbox.
I like that.
My checking account, whatever. But I like to see money that comes in good times and bad. When you invest, and you can invest in things that'll quit, that won't spawn you off lots of money maybe up front, depending on how you structure things. But you can count on this for the next 60 months, 120 months, 180 months. You're good. So now in my life, I'm going to be 65. I'm looking for money that I don't have to sit down and babysit. I'm not looking more towards the rentals properties really so much right now. Lease options are cool, but I do more seller finance. I'll do more consulting and help people put deals together, all right, to make things happen. So we started off and I said, there's really 7 different ways. Let's assume for a minute, this particular property has debt on it, right? So I'm assuming, I don't know how many people on are buying a property subject to means. Subject to existing financing. You come to me and you've got a property, it's worth $100,000 and you've got $85,000 in debt on it. Let's make it crazy, $90,000 in debt or more. Doesn't really matter, right? If different reasons why you'd want to sell it, all right? The property could be in foreclosure. It could be behind in payments, at least 2 or more. I would look for that house. If you could be in more different types of financial distress, the owner might have moved away, and then maybe they just can't afford even 2 payments that are past due on the property, right? They're desperate. They want to get rid of this property. Maybe they've got no equity at all. Maybe it's a $100,000 house, and they owe $105,000 on it, right? But this particular home is in good condition. It's in a good neighborhood. It's in a place where children are going to school. It's not in a renter's neighborhood, although you can work with them also. There's a different buyer, a different exit strategy for those. But look for properties where I look for properties in good neighborhoods like that. So I'll look to go ahead and buy that property subject to. I'll go in and I'll take over the payments on that loan, and I might give the person some cash, I might not, right? Buy that property, keep that wall, keep the house going down the track. Now that's on the purchase side, all right? But what am I going to do with that property? There's different exit strategies. I could keep it forever and make it a rental property. And what happens every month? My tenant pays down my mortgage, so I'm gaining equity every single month, right? What else could I do with it? The whole host. We'll get back to it, but keep seller finance. Keep that one spot on the side now as we start to build our portfolio of properties. One tool in our toolbox is subject to existing financing. That's the first one. Second one is, and I
That's
love
good.
doing this one, is 0% financing. So how the hell do I get that? Don't talk about interest. You want $100,000 for your house? You heard John Ionati last Monday night talk about give people what they want. I was on a phone call with him a few years ago when he got a phone call from another person saying another investor. So I got a guy who wants $400,000 for this house. That's why him and I were joking around, kidding around last Monday night. I was there. I know this when he got this seller on the phone. This guy wanted $400,000 for this house, and he said it like 15 times on the phone. So John said, "Well, if I can give you the $400,000 for the house, can we do business?" Yeah, okay. He contracted with him. He had no intentions of paying a guy $400,000 for a $200,000 house. All right. How many people have seen an amortization schedule? You know, when you buy a property, you're going to pay interest. Standard. That's how when you go into these banks, they've got all the marble and the gold chandeliers. Isn't that great? And there's banks on every corner going across the country. Why? Because they make it on arbitrage, what they can borrow money for and what they put the money out for. You can be the bank on those deals. So John went ahead and structured the deal on that $400,000. He listened to what the person wanted. He brought somebody in as what I call a penalty box buyer. All right, that's what I've got someone that I listen to every week, and all he does is financing, and I eat this up every week. All right, Eddie Speed. Anybody gets a chance to listen to Eddie online? He's got free demos, not demos, free videos on Facebook and all. Look up Eddie Speed if you want to learn more about doing financing, doing notes. Perfect man, and he explains it all. 0% financing. So John went ahead and found a guy who was a penalty box buyer. Fellow that couldn't get a mortgage, couldn't get a loan from a conventional bank. Fellow was self-employed, had plenty of money. He was making a great salary, making a great income, but he couldn't get a mortgage through a bank. So he said, "Listen, you want to buy a house? This house is $250,000." He says, "And you're going to be able to buy it." He says, "If the guy wants four." Well, if we sit down and we figure out today's market, it was back then, the average interest rate was about 7 or 8%. When you spread the monies out, and we gave them a long-term 30-year payout on this thing, it was crazy. The numbers dwarfed. So do a spread on an amortization schedule, and you'll find out how you can make money arbitraging, getting money for a lot cheaper, and charging a higher interest rate on it. I'll get involved with that. I'll talk more about what I do in a little while. Let's just go through these 7. So 0% interest financing, always start there. When I talk to a seller, you want to buy it, you want to sell a house, it's $100,000, that's fine. What if I gave you $5,000 up front and I gave you $1,000 a month until it's paid off? What would you think about that? But that's after we've already got a contract on it or an option to purchase or whatever. One way, all right? Another way to finance, number 3, would be a percentage of finance, right? And you can either split it. You could say, I want to get seller financing for say It's the same $100,000 house. He wants, well, you talk to this guy, and all of a sudden, well, you know what? All right, if you give me half the money down, I'll wait. I'll wait for the money. All right, all right. Let's see what I'll do. I'll go out to my investor, and on a $100,000 house, I'll borrow 50 grand from a private investor. And my speech with him would be, this is a $100,000 house. I want to borrow $50,000. So you're getting in the door. There's a $50,000 spread of equity on top of you. Yeah, okay. I want to do a principal and interest deal, and we can do a 10-year thing and pay it out. 10-year schedule and pay it out. Now my seller, who I gave $10,000, I gave $50,000 to up front. I tell him, tell you what, I want to give this to you, but it's going to balloon out in 10 years, and you're going to hold that $50,000 second mortgage, and it might accrue no interest, or it might accrue 1 or 2% interest or whatever, and let that go out. There's 100 different ways to scale this and bring in private money. I'm not talking about going to banks, but bring in private money up front, schedule it, and spread the money out, and let that seller sit on the back end and wait for either balloon payment, or say my payments start in 10 years, my payments start in 60 months, whatever it is. Because what's going to happen is, hopefully the world doesn't come to an end, and this property goes up in value. As it goes up in value, your asset grows. As your asset grows, your spread, your equity gets bigger and bigger. You could go out in 10 years and just refinance the whole damn thing, or turn around and sell it and capture your equity, pay off your investors, and walk away with a nice big bag of cash. So now that's split financing. All right. Mark likes that. Mark, what do you think, huh? Now that would be a percentage of financing. That would be a percentage of funding. And we call that, you can either call it split funding, whatever, right? You can give the person some cash now and let them wait and give them the balance down the road, either in payments or in a balloon, right? Another way we can do it, as we all know, is lease options. Lease options, you have the least amount of risk and the biggest reward at the end of the rainbow. You really do. Justin's the champion on this. Everybody's on this call. You should be very well up to snuff as to what lease options are. If you're not, talk to Justin. All right.
Thank you.
That would be number 5. Number 6 are options. I love options. All right. Options, the same thing. I'll give anybody out here. If you're not using options, you're leaving money on the table. If you talk to 10 people, just take 10. And right now, you're lucky. You're lucky if you get one person on board on the average right now to get a lease option done. All right. I want to list your house. I want to hold it for 3 years. I want to get an option to buy the house. Get an option there. Build an option. Start a communications. Give him what he asked for. It's either a lease option or put it in contract for sale, contract to purchase. And most contracts I do, you don't need to put on an and or a sign, because in most of the states I do business, if it's not exclusively said inside the agreement that you cannot transfer, you cannot assign this contract, it's assumed assignable. In the business world, contracts are assigned, whether it's real estate, whether it's a financial instrument, whatever. All right. It's assumed that they're assignable. All right. I love options. Person wants $100,000 for that house, give them the 100 grand. If the home has been on the market for a long period of time, that only shows you that their motivation level is higher. If the guy's only been on the market for 30 days, come on. His greed glands are still growing, and you're probably not going to get there unless he's got the motivation level is he's got to sell that house. He could be going into foreclosure, whatever it is. It's your job to find out what the motivation level is, to play the professional, to be to ask lots of questions, all right, to find out where he's at in that mode as far as being a 1 to 10. That's what Mark talks about. That's what Vernon's good at that. I know Vernon's online tonight. And you also got Victor. I don't know if Victor's on tonight. These guys hold classes during the week, and they talk about just how to talk on the telephone. If you don't have that tool, if you don't have that skill to be able to have that conversation with people one on one, hang up the phone, turn it all off because it's got to start there. Even before you have even before you master all these different techniques, you don't really need all these damn techniques because when you hang up a telephone, there's another guy right behind you going to come and probably ask the same general questions. Don't sound the same. Be different. All right. Um, we talked about options, and I've got number 7 is the simplest of all cash. Anybody can buy a house and pay all cash for it. All right. Now, one of the that's the whole thing. That's it in an enchilada. So one of the things I do, all right, is I'll look for areas where I can sell or finance my properties. I don't want to be the bank. I'm not crazy about being a landlord. All right. I want to be the bank. So I'll go into areas where there's either a higher run of repossessed, foreclosed properties and all, and I'll look to buy a bunch of properties in a bunch. I'll buy 10, 15, 20 in a group if I can get a better price on it, right? Or I'll buy one at a time. Sometimes I'll buy them one at a time through realtors, all right? I throw a big net out there with marketing when it comes if I'm going to go into an area and I'm set. This is where I want to be, and I have private money behind me. So we go in the door and I pay cash for a lot of my properties that I want to sell or finance to drag the price down on these lower end houses. All right, stuff that when I say lower end, probably the top dollar value of the properties at the time I buy them was, I said I haven't done this in the last year because of the market. You're looking at probably somewhere around 80 to 100,000. Those $80,000 houses now, depending on what part of the country they're in, are worth 130, 140 grand. I got stuff that's doubled in the last 16, 18 months. It's crazy. I'll buy that property and I'll look for a 2% number. 2% per month is what I look for when I spread the numbers out. So if I'm going to sell this house, if I look at a house that I'm renting, I'm sorry, with a rental area is say $800 a month. All right. I know I can pay 80. I know I can go up to a retail price on a house of $80,000. So I'd like to, simple numbers, guys. You don't need a calculator for this. $800 a month. I'll pay. I know my retail price on a house is around 80. Usually somewhere around 80 grand, and I want to buy it for 40 or 45,000. I'd love to be in the house for 50, 55, 60 cents on a dollar. These are in non-judicial states where I can put where I can finance the property, and in the worst case scenario, if I don't get paid, I'm not waiting 6 months, a year, 2, 3, 4 years to get my property back. That's important to look at non-judicial states. In judicial states, there's ways around doing business also, but with Dodd-Frank and all, you're also looking at legal consequences that are all across the country. Now, I'm going to stop here for a second. I'm going to tell you, I'm not here to give you legal advice. I'm not an attorney. I'm not here to give you tax advice. I'm not an accountant. I'm about as far away as you can. I got 2 attorneys in my office here, and I don't. I mean, I'll take advice from them, but I never ask people that make half of what I make a year for to make a decision for me. No, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
What else? So I'll buy these properties and I'll mark them up.
When you say non-judicial states, what you mean is the foreclosure process?
Yeah, well, in other words, if a house has to go into foreclosure, all right, it's not actually going through the courtrooms. It's not going through the court, the judge, the court system. It's handled outside by trustees of the court, whatever. They handle it. I'm not an attorney, but I can just tell you, non-judicial is the express way to get these deals done versus judicial. If you're in judicial states, look on. It's simple. Go on Google and just type in real estate judicial states, and you'll have a list. I got a list on my wall right here. All 50 states are on it, and I'll know what's the average days in foreclosure, how long it takes to turn a deal around, and all that. That's important. That's part of your exit strategy. All right. So when you go into when I go and I'll sell or finance this, I already bought the property now. and I'll sell or finance it, right? The first year I own the property, for tax reasons, ooh, look at this. The first year I own the property for tax reasons, I'll lease option the property. And I like doing lease options with someone I want to put into a house long term because it likes to take it gives the customer, it gives the tenant, I call it buy my tenant buyer, like a test drive on the property. I open up a checking account for just that property and they just put the money directly into the checking account. I don't have to make phone calls. I don't do all that. And they understand the money they gave me up front as their down payment towards their lease fee, all right, comes off the price of the house. I go, you do everything you're supposed to do. You take care of this house. You take care, you make sure that payment comes in the door. 12 months from now, on the 13th month, I'll sell or finance the property. You do what you're supposed to do, and I'll do what I'm supposed to do. And it works out pretty well. I get about 75% of all the properties I put together work out that way. And you start getting a name for doing that. You're not out there trying to steal somebody's lease fee, which a lot of these guys do. I'm not in that game. This is my retirement. I'm looking for good people, honest people to put them into a good property. And I'm not shoveling them into a house that needs a lot of work. And they're not perfect, but you're not dropping a Volkswagen through the roof of my house. If the roofs are new, if they need them, they're painting, they new carpet, they look nice, right? How much work do you really put into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home on a slab? There's no second floor, there's no basement, they're brick houses. How much work can you really do to these houses?
Yeah.
So that's my model, So I'll turn around a year after this. Now I've got seller financing up front for that $40,000 on this $80,000 house, or $50,000 on this $100,000 house. Let's make it the numbers simple, right? House is worth 100. It's worth about usually between 5 and 6% on that 2% deal. If you're buying in the right areas, that my property is going to be worth right about market value. If I bought this house right, I don't buy them right. I don't buy them. I made a couple of mistakes. It's the way it goes. It's the way it goes. It goes with the territory. So now I take this property. It's got a first mortgage on it with my investor. He knows he's in this thing for at least the next 5 to 10 years, and I'm paying this. But for most of my investors on this, I'll pay somewhere between 7 and 8% interest on. My deals are all interest only, right? And if you match this up, I take this new mortgage that I write with my new buyer. Now I'm a year into this. I've done a lease option with them, and now I own it. And now it's time to flip it and sell the house to my tenant buyer. All right. I sell on the house for the $100,000 minus their down payment. All right. Most of the time, I try to keep the note around 100. And whatever they gave me down and a couple of bucks the home's appreciated by, I normally add that to the top. So let's just keep it simple. Let's make it $100,000. So now go to your calculator and figure $100,000, all right, at 10% interest for 30 years. All right. That's my deal with my customer. All right. It's all Dodd-Frank. It's all through an RMLO, a residential mortgage loan originator. They back you up. Now you've got a new note, which we take and we wrap the first mortgage. Uh-oh. How many people did I just lose? Nobody. That's great. All right. So I've got a first mortgage on the property, which I'm obligated to pay my investor. My name is still on the deed. I own it. Now I'm going to sell this property, and I'm going to sell or finance my share, my ownership, my equity, and all. Right. So I go ahead and I sell it to the Smith family over here, and I sell it to them for $100,000. I give them $10,000 credit. I write a new $90,000 mortgage, which it's a second mortgage, and it includes everything having to do with that first mortgage. So I wrap it, and now I have a new second mortgage to my consumer, my buyer. As far as they're concerned, they know there's a first mortgage on the property. Everything is disclosed. My investor knows what's going on. Everything is disclosed. And if you spread out the numbers of what I borrowed the $50,000 up front, and the new note in the back for the $90,000 and $95,000. So this closing costs and all, which end up. It's going to take almost 22 years for what I borrowed up front to equal what the balance is in the back. Now we're arbitraging. I'm borrowing money at 7% interest. I get the 3% spread on the first $50,000. Now from the 50 to the 90 and $95,000, I'm getting 10% interest. All right. You look at a statement on this. Now you're going to cash flow every single month. No tenants, no toilets, no taxes, no roofs, no plumbing, no electrical to worry about. Nada. You're the bank. And this is something that's been going on since the Roman days. This isn't something new. Same thing as lease options. Been going on since the Roman days, the Roman Empire. All right. And these things have all been handed down. To get to that point, if you've got a $100,000 house that you can buy for $50,000 or $60,000, that's a fit for this kind of business. Now I've taken these same houses that I knew, let's say the same structure, and I go ahead and I look at a house when I first got into this market where I'm doing business. There was a home down there worth. They said, "Oh, when it's all prettied up, it's worth $200,000. It's worth $150,000. Well, how much are you going to pay for it?" I offered him $60,000. We negotiated it down to $75,000. Right? And this house needed to be rehabbed. It was a piece of shit. Excuse my French. I called it firewood. Right? I go, but it was in a great neighborhood, and it was an area where people wanted to live. It wasn't a renter's neighborhood. So what did I do with this property? This is off memory now. I gave it back to the realtor who got me the deal, right? And I said, I'm willing to sell or finance this to a rehabber. I want $10,000 up front, and I'll sell it to him for the house. I thought was worth about $150. Done. We paid him $75. I think I put the house up for $100 or $105,000. We got the money like that. Guy came in the door, put $10,000 down. I says, you got 2 years to get the thing done. I says, you're going to pay me interest on my money, and you're going to give me $10,000 down. Really? Okay. Boom. I had a waiting list of people wanting to do this. So now instead of flipping this house and making $5,000 or $10,000, right? I was the bank. So instead of him having to go out and get hard money and paying all those fees and having to worry about this thing ballooning, I gave him 2 years to get this turkey done. And I knew in that market, it's kind of slower bringing a retail buyer to the table and getting them approved at the time. So, but it all worked out. I think I net on that thing about 109,000, right? And I paid $75 for it, but he gave me interest on 10% every single month, just the interest, right? On it every single month. That took care of my investor up front. I collected 10% interest from my buyer. I paid 7 or 8% to my to my investor, right? And when it all came done, everybody walked away. Now, my investors don't get equity. They only get interest. This way you're not opening up your books. I don't like to do that. And whether you make money, lose money, no matter what happens, if you bring private money to the table, they get paid before you eat. No matter what, you got to cover your bases. If you're going to go to bat and you're going to borrow money, especially from people, now all these people talk to one another. When you borrow money, you bring that person to the table, the deal is what attracts the money. If someone can give you money and there's a 50% markup on the top side of this thing, in other words, there's 50% equity on top of it, or 40 or 30, whatever it is, that's a hell of a lot better than they're ever going to see on Wall Street. These deals attract business-like people. Mr. Customer, Mr. Investor.
Yeah.
What do you do for a living? Well, I make people happy. I put a smile on everybody's face. I help invest money. I help them people invest their retirement. Like me. Look at this. I'm retiring. Yeah, I want to retire. I'd love to have mailbox money. Wouldn't you? Oh, yeah. I picked up an investor this weekend. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. You know. All right. So you know what? What do you guys want to talk about? I mean, I could ramble on and on all night long, but that's not what we're here for.
Dude, what
Guess what?
I had an idea.
Yeah.
How about
I thought we said seller financing. I'm kind of confused.
Which
as to-
which side of seller
I-
financing do you want to talk
I'm-
about? It's all seller financing.
Yeah, that's the same.
Yeah, I think we need examples, Steve, because you got to realize you're a lot more seasoned investor than a lot of us. So we need numbers and stuff like that because
so
it just sounds like a story. But
It's all a story, dear. It's
yeah,
all
I
a
know we
story.
need some numbers. Just you know what I mean? Just
Well,
So-
this is Jersey Girl here.
the seven different ways
Lots of
in.
ways to buy. Yep.
Okay.
right.
How about this?
Let's
next,
tackle one. or something like
starting
that.
next week. Let's tackle one per
Per-
night,
Yes, please. Yeah.
That's
and
fine.
because the seven to you all work together and they make sense, but to some of us, it's like we haven't even heard of some of
It's like
them.
Spanish.
Yeah. So I was thinking now, good way to break that down that's a great outline for like a 7-week.
Lord help me.
Uh,
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Pick one and let's talk about it tonight. What do you guys want to do?
I would really hope that we can talk about the what you were just talking about, the seller finance, because that is something I wanted to do with what you're talking about with how you get the properties under a wrap. There's a guy in San Antonio that I was learning from that did this very, very, very well, and I want to do that with my Roth IRA and kick that in there where it's tax free. So when I'm ready to retire, I just cash in like a mofo when I'm done, and I want to put at least about 8 to 10 properties a year if I can in there. And I know,
This guy in
yeah,
San Antonio, Mitch.
yeah, it's Mitch. Yeah,
Mitch showed me how to do it.
it sounds really familiar what you're talking about. I was like, man, I know this. So
Everybody, the fellow's name is Mitch Stevens. He has books out, he has videos out. My Life in 1,000 Houses. Go online. He's all over YouTube. Just go see this guy. If you have a conversation with him, tell him Steve Driscoll is a personal friend of mine. You tell him that. I told him to call you. I know a lot of people. Mitch is a great guy, and we're gonna get him on this. We're gonna get him on this telephone one night. I already talked to him.
man, I'd love that dude because that guy is a king in this topic right here. Like he is the dude.
You guys got those wild boars of pigs out there? He said,
Yeah, man.
he shot last night. Looked like the size of a horse. I mean, what are you doing? He's a character. He's a character. But this guy, see, he tripped and fell into this business. He was sitting there. His business model was buying homes wholesale, cleaning them up quickly, taking them over, closing on them, and selling the note and mortgage at the closing. And the company that was doing that was a subsidiary of Ford Motor Company. They had a big mortgage company. Right? So now they were buying stuff. All of a sudden, one night, he's sitting there with 40 or 50 houses that are in the pipeline. He's getting ready to sell, and they're in different phases. The bank put the keys in the door and says, we're no longer doing this anymore. Holy cow. Now what do I do? He had to reinvent himself, and he went into doing seller financing. You should read that. You know, it's a great, he's got a great book, and he's got a great story. And he shows the numbers and shows you how to do it. Yeah, it's a great deal.
Yeah,
So,
hold on. I got the book here, man. I'll show you.
yeah. So, anyways, I don't
Yeah,
have anything
hey, guys.
to write on here.
Yeah.
I don't have a tablet to write on. All I have is Justin. If you want to show, can you have that white box or white? Tell me how that thing works, and I'll put some stuff on there right now.
Y'all see that? Oh, where is it? Hold on. There it is.
All right,
It's
so how do I write on this thing? Oh, you got the book. Yeah, hold it up, man.
I'm trying to, but it won't. Like, yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go. You got it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My Life in 1,000 Houses, and he's got a few other books that he wrote. Yeah, he's bored with his life. That guy, he's just bored. It's not a game to him anymore. True entrepreneurs, I think, get bored after a while. They're always chasing, looking for something else to do. You know.
Hey, Nick, post
Yo.
his name in the chat.
What's what?
Put the guy's name in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mitch Stevens. Stephen's.
They're also on Audible in case you don't have time
Yep.
to read.
Yep. HDLG, is that Arturo?
Justin, you're muted. I don't know if Justin knows. Justin, you're muted.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Yeah, it's in the chat room. It's in the chat here in the Zoom room now. Yeah, that Ace is Arturo. So he's here. There's a lot of folks here in the Zoom room, a lot of folks watching too outside of here. And it's cool. We got Steve sharing screens. I was gonna tell you how to do that. Cool. Here we go.
Go over your last seller finance structure. Like how did it go from
I'm going to show you
having
one
the
right now.
owner finance it and then you disposition it to a seller finance? That'll be great example of your last one that you can, from the top of your head, you can
I'm
remember.
going to show you one right now.
Let's do it.
100 updates. Options for 10K down, 850 per month. I'll go over this. I'm just typing this out so it makes, and I'll go over it. Let me just give me a second here. All right. We had purchase money, purchase balance, investor. Jumped it up to 50K. 7%. Interest only. Sold for 110K.
Did Michael get to the bottom of why he was kicked out of Marketplace? Does anybody know?
Michael Batista? Is
Yeah.
that who we're Yeah. Y'all want to hear that story real quick while he's typing that out?
Go ahead. Finance.
Yeah, with Facebook ads, they're very particular now about how you set up your ad. And he had written the listing description for his property deal. It was a property deal ad. He had put in the description, this home would be great for a young couple or for a solo owner. Okay. He got nabbed by Facebook police for being discriminatory.
Yep, they are.
Because he was discriminatory technically, unintentionally now, okay, against older couples and non-traditional unions.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
So be very, very careful now how you word things, people, because it matters. Okay.
Wow.
The good thing he found out why it was it, and now he can fix it.
Yes.
And now we can fix it ourselves as well.
Yes. Yep.
So lucky.
77, 57, 552. Okay. All right. This is kind of all over the place. I'm just typing this up as it came to my mind. The last deal I did, all right, it's in Montgomery, Alabama. Tell you everything. 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. The house, the ARV, everything done. Not ARV, all finished. The house was worth about 115, between 105 and 115,000. The market's all over the place there. All right. This was about a little over 14 months ago. All right. I purchased the house for $45,000. I put about between $5,000 and $6,000 in it. That includes closing costs and all. I didn't spend a lot of money on this house. I did some quick carpet, a little bit of touch up, a little bit of paint. The woman that owned the house just wanted out. She was in the military and had lived in the house a long time. The husband got transferred out, and the husband was in the military, and they just wanted out, so they left. So I managed to give them cash, the whole 45 grand, put $6,500 in updates in the house. So I had 51.5 in the house, whatever, roughly speaking. I lease optioned the house out. I got somebody out, $10,000 down, and rented it to them, $850 a month for 12 months. This deal went live a little over 2 months ago. All right, we just finished the wrap. We just finished the deal. We did it. Meaning the person went up and had already gone through the 12 months on the lease option. So now, for tax reasons, my income becomes long-term capital gains instead of just instant income, actual income, earned income, whatever. So we purchased the purchase price, the purchase dollars from our investor. I borrowed 50 grand at 7% interest only. So it balloons in 5 years. All right. Sold the house for 110,000. I got $10,000 down. So 360 months, 30 years at 10% interest. Principal and interest on the mortgage to my new buyers is $877.57. That excludes escrows for taxes and insurance. All right. My upfront interest check to my investor is $291.67. So this home cash flows every month $552.90. I will not hold a seller finance deal on anything unless I'm netting at least $400 a month. Forget it. It's not worth the aggravation. Now, if I got to take this house back, all right, let's say in this particular state, it's faster for me to do a foreclosure and get a house back than it is to do an eviction. That's the way it's worked. It's the way it's worked out. I can get this house back in my name, the title cleared, everything in less than 6 months, which is pretty quick. So I got 10 grand down. So I got 10,000 reasons I say why the buyer's going to make money. The buyer's going to stay in the deal and pay me. Stuff happens. Who knows? All right. But this is my deal. So I know for at least the first 5 years, I've got $552.90 coming in the door in guaranteed cash flow. If they make a payment, I'm getting that.
Nice.
All right. So now what happens? Now this can't happen forever. So now what happens, Steve? What happens in 10 years from now? Well, 5 years down the road, this note for 50 grand comes due. I give the investor the same, listen, would you like to roll it over? Where else are you going to get 7% interest? Let's say he says, no, forget it. I don't want nothing to do with it. Pay me off. All right. I take the new mortgage that I had originated 5 years before, that I wrapped, and now I can sell a partial of it for cash flow. I can sell the whole note and get out to an investor. There's a lot of things that I can do with that note. Having that note is like having cash. We transfer notes every day. Look at a $20 bill, $10 bill. It's a Federal Reserve note. Same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
You do that with banks, right, Stephen? Also, as well, they sell the note if it's seasoned.
I don't like selling notes. I'm a long-term guy. I want to keep it as long as I can.
You like holding notes.
Yeah, I like holding them. Man. And if you structure this deal right and you've got the right investors, I've got 22 years to go from start. That this note is gonna equal what, in other words, what's owed in the front to my investor is equal to what's owed in the back. And I'm going to tell you something. These mortgages and these notes are never going to go 22 years. 9 times out of 10, since he's paying me 10% interest, he's either going to refi it, he's going to move, life changes, they get bored, the house gets sold, I get paid off, whatever. Most of these deals don't really last more than 6 to 8 years. And that's nationwide. Americans got the jitters. They like to move, So it's also driven by the economy, what happens in the local economy for these areas, So, but you can do this anywhere in the United States. You can hold a note anywhere. Don't anybody tell you, oh, you got to be licensed. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Steve, I have a question.
Shoot.
Okay, in this one, what about the property taxes, insurance, and all that stuff?
I escrow property taxes and insurance. That's on top of this. All right?
Okay.
That's
Okay.
on top of this. And usually, in this particular state, I mean, compared to, I live in New York. I mean, the real estate taxes on the house I just sold, my own house, were $42,000 a year. This down over here, this is in Alabama. I mean, real estate taxes down there is like a couple of cases of beer. It's more like I think this house is like $180 a year or something like that. The insurance on it was another say it was $1,000. We escrow a year's worth, and this way that's also part of Dodd-Frank. You can't do this deal without escrowing taxes and insurance, I believe. Besides, don't listen if you're going to do this, don't listen to these guys where you're looking to get I can do 3 of these a year and I'll be exempt. Your paper's worthless. Do this in a way so that you are conforming. Everything you do conforms with the federal regulations. Everything. I create this note like it was Wells Fargo, only I do it more honestly. And you go ahead now. If I want to sell any of my notes. They're stacked up. Everything is conforming. There's no surprises. All my docs are all correct. They're all prepared by not only they're underwritten through the residential mortgage loan originator.
Right.
Closed with attorneys.
Okay. So you are using a RMLO to do all the. Okay.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Yep.
Whoa. Whoa. This is incredible good.
Now you
Been a
can
lot
do
of-
this. You can do this. This is a retail deal, right? What
Right.
if you had this same deal and it was a wholesale house? 'Cause I've done a few of them, not a lot. I don't like doing them. But you could. Instead of making $5,000 on a house, be the bank. Get the down payment that you need to buy this wholesale house. Get the down payment from the next guy coming down the road, that wholesaler. And now instead of him going out on the same house, all right, and having to go and arrange capital, you arrange the capital. You be the bank. You be in control. All right. And watch how much money he's going to put into your house.
Hey,
Think
Steve.
about that for a minute. And
Oh,
I want to learn the way of the
there's ways to
Jedi.
structure that. You could put the property into a trust. Now I'm stepping out of the box. You could put the property into a trust where instead of actually transferring the deed and all, put the property into a trust, and now you finance the beneficial interest in the property. So the guy doesn't pay you, you're not recording anything. The guy doesn't pay you, pick a phone. Hey, get the cash over here today, tomorrow we're done. Have a good day. Boom. That fellow that had those 2,700 houses in the Southwest Florida, that's exactly what he was doing. That's it. He did all trusts. He did not. Everything he did was anonymous. Whatever. Nobody knew what was going on. He didn't have his name on any records. It was all done through trusts.
Steve, do you ever do those types of deals like on contract for deeds too, or do you just
Contract for deeds. Everything I've done in the states that I do, there's normally you could. I mean, semantics. Why not? But most of the stuff I do, the business I do now, in these states, it's pretty much simple. I mean, yeah, you could do it with anything.
But they're getting title then too, right?
They don't have to. Are you talking about a wholesale transaction?
No, I'm just talking about like the general seller finance deal to your end buyers. Are they getting the deed?
Absolutely. I don't want to
Okay.
own it.
Right.
But they're not. I'm at a point in my life now where I've done quite a few of these. You could say the people are saying, "All right, this is a good deal. You know this guy. They're all friends. They all talk, and before you know it, you've got the money in your hand. Nobody goes and looks at my houses. They're 1,000 miles away. But they can now with the internet, they can check everything. Your situation, you got to talk to people that do investing now. All right, you got to talk to people that might have had some money in the market, that have a nice big 401k or an IRA that's just sitting there getting no money. You got to talk to people. I mean, just ask questions, start a conversation, but you're not borrowing money. You're doing them a favor. You're helping them you're helping their retirement accounts out. You're doing them a favor.
It's
The average-
technically the most secure investment there is, right?
You can't say that though.
No, you can't say that, but we think that, right?
Well, if you look at, all right, listen, look at it this way. All right, let's take this same fellow he's talking to, and he's him and Horn doesn't know whether or not this person wants to invest or not. Ask the person, so you invest in Wall Street, you invest in stocks, yeah, that's great. When you buy a stock, can you buy it for 25% off or 30% off of value? No, you got to pay 100% of the value, right? That goes, yeah. So I buy a stock for $1. I've got to pay $1 for it. Okay, fine. So now, if I go and I borrow money against this property, here's the same dollar, and I can show you where I can give you another dollar on top of that in reserve money. How does that work? Well, if I'm only borrowing $50,000 on a $100,000 house, in order for this whole thing to go crazy, and your $50,000 not be worth anything, we're probably grabbing guns. The economy's crashed. Go back and look at your investment now you just did on Wall Street with this stock. The stock falls out of bed 2 weeks down the road. It loses 20% of its value. Now it's down to 80 cents on a dollar instead of $1. Where are you going to find that 20%? That 20 cents.
Exactly.
Look at the same deal on the real estate side. I have a 50,000. I have 50 cents on top of that dollar in reserve money. I always look to keep my investor in a position where there's always a good chunk of positive equity there. That no matter what happens, if the shit hits the fan, he's still covered. No matter what, he's still covered. I've had homes that burnt to the ground. Not many, two, burnt to the ground. I had no insurance on them. All I carried on these houses was liability insurance. All right. Did the person that I bought the house from know? No, they kept getting checks from me every single month. They didn't know anything. Finally, I got a sale on it after I rebuilt the house. I said, you know what, I'm done with this. Let's just sell it. Somebody made me a nice offer on it. I took him out of it and I put him into another deal. And in conversation, he said to me, so how'd you make out with that? I said, I did all right. I said, after I rebuilt it, he says, rebuilt it? What do you mean? I said, well, it burnt to the ground. What do you mean it burnt to the ground? You don't. He goes, you never told me. I go, what am I going to tell you for? Why bother? You got checks from me every month. I did what I said I was going to do. And if I, for some reason, can't perform, you get the house.
It was more manageable because you were making interest-only payments too,
That's
right,
the only
Steve?
way I do it. I tell the people when I close with them, I says, go to church on Sunday, say a novena, that I never pay you. Guy goes, why? Because you're going to get an asset worth $100,000 for $50,000. Pray I never pay you.
Yeah.
And they start there and they go, really? How's that work again? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This has been a great ramping up. This has been a good, what's the word I'm looking for? I think you guys understand what I mean. The following weeks are going to be amazing.
I've been all over the place with this tonight. I didn't know where we wanted to be, where we were going to end up. If we can set on a particular conversation on a particular subject, then I can expand on it and bring some assets to the screen and see where we're going. But
can we start with this one?
Which one? Seller financing or raising private money? What do you want to know?
The seller financing reps.
Seller financing. Well, seller financing can be on you when you purchase. Seller financing can be when you sell. You know, that's a big conversation to be had. You know.
So let's break it down into what the number one on the list was subject to. Could we break down subject to in one night and then the next night talk about the split method? Because I think that's where we start getting into what folks are thinking about.
The split method. Buying property subject to is like a step up strategy. When you start talking about putting together financing and split strategies and all, that's advanced stuff.
Okay. Where do you recommend as beginners we would begin?
Well, let's bring people to the table that have experience, that are experts in these particular categories. All right. I would much rather do that. All right.
Okay.
Sitting, I'm all over the place. Unless I'm being honest with you. All right. We started this off, and I said to Justin, "What are we talking about?" He's, I don't know, seller financing. I go, for what? What are we, So if we have a defined area we want to go to, I think a smart thing to do. I think we start off with raising private capital.
Oh, what do you think about that? Okay.
If you've got private money, sky's the limit. You can buy any damn thing. All right.
Ring the bell.
So I mean, when you have money, you make the rules. You really do. You make the rules. They don't want to take that $50,000 so we can close tomorrow. What? If I can get title cleared, we can close tomorrow. It makes a bit. I beat so many deals out
Okay.
because you're quick with the draw and you got the cash in the bank.
That's awesome. We finally nailed it down.
We can start with that.
Let's start with that because that's a
We can
great
start
place to
with
start.
I'll see what I can do to bring some people to the table for that. Someone's not gonna have anything to sell you. Don't worry about it. All right. He's dying. Look at Nicholas. He's dying.
So somebody asked here, if you had no insurance on the burn houses, how did you recover the rebuild cost?
It was easy. You write a check. You write a check. That's what you do. I decided I had bought so many of these cheaper houses. To put full insurance on these houses was costing me almost $4,000 a year. I had over 30 houses I bought in this package.
Listen,
Do the math, 120 grand. The average house was only worth about 60. All right, if it was even worth that. What I saved in insurance premium, you know what? Worst comes to worst, roll the dice. I'm not buying it. And I did that for years. And I still have properties that don't have insurance. All I have is I carry liability on everything.
How
But I
many
can show-
houses again?
I didn't tell you.
Well,
The first-
no, I mean, in that story that you had, that you were paying insurance on that you decided to drop, how many?
No, I didn't drop it. I didn't buy it. It was over 30 houses in that package. I still own them.
Okay.
Still own them, and the majority of them, they've gone up in value now. I've taken some equity out of them. I've gotten some. I've taken private individuals out and actually brought in banks because
Yeah.
the interest rates are so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I've had to go and put full insurance coverage on them, but that's the most expensive damn thing going. The homes that I have, yeah, I mean, not in Alabama, I've been out of Florida. Florida is very expensive with insurance. You know, so
So out of 30 houses, you were unlucky enough to have 2 of them burned down?
actually just one.
Okay.
And it wasn't a total burn down. It wasn't a total washout. It was a
Okay.
cement block house, 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. How much damage can you do to a cement block, 3-bedroom, 1-bath house?
Yeah.
No basement, no second story. Right?
Cosmetic,
I'm like,
right?
It was like the house is built like a barbecue, this house. So
Like a bomb shelter.
yeah, that's it, you know. So I mean, how much damage can you do to it? I think I rebuilt the house. It cost me, I don't know, it was like in the low 20s and the house was brand new.
That's
It
beautiful.
wasn't a catastrophe. Now it wasn't a house, you know, like up north where I live, you know, 300, 350, 400,000 to replace a house. Different ball game today, you know, different area, different values. But I think guys, getting off the track here, let's put the train back on the track. You don't laugh, you cry. You gotta laugh more, right? I think we should start off with seller finance, a seller raising private money.
Anybody agree with that? Anybody agree
Yeah.
with? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
I am with him too. So
Okay.
If we
agree.
understand the mechanics of raising private money, you understand what the collateral, I call it the quick collateral recovery rate would be. If I've got a house that I buy on Monday and I've got to get rid of it on Thursday, what am I going to lose? All right, you know, you understand those quick turn dollars, you'll have no problem attracting private money for individuals that have never even invested before. If you're genuine and you show people what you've done and you just answer their questions, you're fine. And you have
Good.
fun doing it. You meet great people.
Good stuff.
Yeah, you meet great people.
I like this. This is nice. This feels good, guys.
I feel like
We
I'm
all-
on a hot seat, Mark falling off the chair.
We got any questions or anything for Steve? Anything? We've been, how long we've been going? What time is it? It's
10:06.
It's after 10, yeah, over there on the East Coast.
I need
So,
a beer.
no, right after that,
He needs a beer.
it's like an
Son-
open mic.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm going into witness protection after this.
Want to learn about options too. That was in there. You talked about that. So we got it.
What is
See,
it?
we-
What is it?
we-
People
we-
have, what's all this big mystery with options? It's a piece of paper.
We got
There
you
you go.
teed up for like the next 6 months, man.
Options is so easy. Mark, you use options all the time, right?
Yeah, I used to use them a lot more, but I want to get back into them. And you know, it was funny because I was thinking about this today. I did a deal a while back where I got an option on a place here in Sonoma County, and it was they had all kinds of crap all over the place and everything. But what I ended up doing is I put that, since I had an option, put it on the MLS with one of those flat fee whatever. It got a realtor to come in. I ended up making like 60 grand on it, and she made like 10,000 in because it was a good deal, you know. But there's so many different ways to do stuff with options. It's super fun too, you know. And it's not risky. It's like the least risk you could possibly have, probably out of any
Right,
type of deal that you can do.
right. I
There's
agree.
not a lot of figuring. Okay, I'll give you what you want. Okay. I got a long zone. I'm going to go out and get my funders together, and if it's a go, we'll know pretty quick. Put it out to the market. If you got a buyer, you got a buyer. If you don't, it's like a stack of inventory sitting on a list, sitting on a shelf.
So from what I'm understanding when it comes to options, let's say like if they say no to a lease option, then you can go ahead into the options bucket. And with that, you can either do a retail buyer, right? That's gonna be straight cash buyer, or you can do a buyer that can get like an FHA.
You
Something like
just
right?
need a buyer. Period.
That's what I'm I understand that part. So I'm
No, but I
saying
mean,
is
it
that
can be anybody.
you're not, no, I get that. So what I'm saying is if they say no to a lease option, right? You can still get it under options contract and go find either a retail buyer. And when I'm saying retail, I'm saying like a straight cash buyer, or either a buyer that can get a mortgage. Am I correct in terms of that?
100%.
Okay, that's what I wanted to just confirm. Okay.
So Steve said it was simple, but I know we could take like a whole hour on it.
Steve's definition of simple is very different.
So
Because he's got all that great stuff in his head, but he's just trying to getting out there and sharing with us because
know.
The whole concept with it is give the people what they want.
Yeah.
And you know what? And if you can't get it, if the market says this guy's out of his mind, then he's out of his mind. You only going to make money on the deals that you put in contract.
Right.
If you don't put them in contract, you're not going to make any money.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
Listen, I don't do this just on real estate.
Yeah.
I use options on businesses, on commercial properties, I mean, you can do it on anything.
I know somebody got an option on an RV.
There you go.
Wow.
That's cool.
You can put options on anything. You lease a car today, right? The lease it's a lease at a defined amount, and at the end of the lease, you have the option of buying it or turning the car back. Same thing.
Yeah.
So we're going to start up next week. We're going to talk about raising private money. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
I like that.
And then maybe the week after that we do options, or maybe a different one. Huh?
I don't know. We'll see.
I'm gonna see if I can get that options course all into PDF and get it out to everybody.
Yes, please.
LaShonda and I were talking about that earlier. I got to just figure out how to do it. But man, I'll tell you what, it's some good stuff. So
what is the course? What kind of?
that was the Jack Miller guy, Jack Miller course.
What's the file on right now? It's just plain paper.
It's just paper. Yeah, it's from old school days, but it's all relevant today still for sure. So
how many pages is it?
It's probably like 200 pages. It's a lot of stuff.
Well.
So, but it's good information, man. It's like this guy was as creative gets. So.
Yep. There was a fellow down in Florida. I forget what his name is. He put everything in trusts, and he hid everything that he could hide from the government, right? And he was studying this guy. He sold books, and he had courses and all this and that. And everything was anonymous. Nobody knew what he had. Well, he died. And when he died, everything was anonymous. Nobody got anything, including his family. So you got to be a little more careful. I just heard that today. Yeah, he passed away about a year ago. Wow. Yeah, shame. Well, guys, I'll be happy to put on that dog and pony show there for seller finance, and that sounds good.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
Yeah,
and, I'm sure I'll be able to have some help with me on that next Monday night. So we'll have a little more gusto.
Do it.
All right,
I'm
we
excited.
won't be as all over the place, you know. But you know, anything you do in this business starts with a story. I can put all the numbers on the screen that you want, and if you don't understand the logic or how it works, you know, you don't have a story. A lot of it just doesn't make sense and it won't go together, you know. So it's what it is. So I want to thank everybody
Makes
for
sense.
being on board tonight.
Yeah.
This was great.
Thank you.
Thanks, and I'm going
That
into
was
witness protection at 11 o'clock Eastern time.
Thank you so much.
Not witness protection.
Thank
Anybody
you,
got any
Steve.
last questions, comments? 1, 2, 3.
Thanks for doing
Nice
it,
call.
Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Kind of all over the
Thank
place,
you.
but we kind of got to start on something here tonight. So
Lashonda, going once, going twice, going 3 times.
Hey, y'all. Y'all don't pick on Lashonda.
Love her questions.
Really glad everybody's here tonight. Thank you for being here. If you're watching out there, you got lucky tonight. Check us out at realestatewholesalersclub.com and subscribe so you never miss any of our private VIP sessions or our exclusive events.
the
Okay.
members here, bring a member next week.
There you go.
For the price of this thing,
Realestatewholesalersclub.com.
the more people that join this, the more people that have an opinion, that ask questions and all, makes this stronger and stronger every week. It really does.
Yeah.
And it keeps everybody on their toes. You know,
It
Bernie,
does.
where you been, man? You fall asleep on us?
No.
I love
No.
that.
I'm here.
He's sitting in the dock. All right.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you for being here, everybody.
Thanks,
Kimberly
everybody.
and Rick and Mary and Sandra and Crystal and Bob and Lashonda and Alan and Vernon and Mark and Mag and Nick and Steve. And there were some others that we didn't catch. They slipped away already. But anyway, you guys have a blessed night. Stay healthy. Okay. Stay happy. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Private VIP session tomorrow at noon Central. Okay. So it won't be broadcast anywhere. Very private. We're going to talk about paperwork. We're going to get into paperwork. We're just going to tear paperwork apart.
Get it.
Whatever questions you got about any of these paperwork. Okay. All right. Have a good night. Get some sleep. You're going to need it. Okay.
Take care, everybody. Thanks.
I'm gonna
Thank you,
stretch
guys.
Good
tomorrow.
night. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.